From floor plans to 5-year plans, business to finding balance, I'm Ashley Bruggeman, an interior designer with a love for beautiful living and a belief that style and substance go hand in hand. I'm pulling back the curtain on design, resilience, and entrepreneurship. Expect real talk, refined tips, and just the right mix of polish and personality. So pour something sweet and join me for a thoughtful conversation with a generous helping of charm and circumstance. Hi friends, I'm Ashley Bruggeman, and this is Charm and Circumstance, where we talk all things interiors, business, and building a beautiful life from the inside out. Today, we're talking about flipping the switch on one of the most powerful tools in your design toolbox, lighting. Whether you're redecorating a room, renovating your entire home, or just wondering why your space feels a little off, lighting is likely playing a bigger role than you think. In this episode, I'm going to walk you through the foundational principles of good lighting, why we layer it at AMI in every room, and why luxury has just as much to do with ambiance as it does with aesthetics. Lighting changes the way we see and feel in a space. To make my point, I want you to imagine yourself inside Walmart. It's basically a warehouse with exposed mechanical and lighting systems in the ceiling. And the lighting has historically been fluorescent tubes, though now I'm sure they're using LEDs. It's not warm light, it's cool light, with undertones of blues that wash over the entire store, just like floodlights. And it fits. If you want a more elegant space, your groceries will cost more than Walmart sells them for. Now imagine yourself inside a really nice restaurant, Jeff Ruby's, Del Frisco's, Capital Grille type. Think of how different this feels. It's darker, obviously. Every square inch of the space is not lit up. As you move through the restaurant, the lighting varies from overhead lights that are aimed very specifically at art on the wall to directly down on tabletops, to wall sconces that create enough light to add a coziness to the interior, and finally table lighting from small lamps on each table and across the bar that serves as both task lighting to see the menus, while at the same time it adds to the ambiance of an elegant interior. This is the difference lighting makes, but it's just the beginning. Lighting can completely change how you see a room based on the colors that it's putting out. You can accentuate specific colors in a room or even just a piece of art based on how the lighting is configured. Luxury is a sensory experience, and lighting is a huge part of this. Again, think of your emotional state inside Walmart versus inside a high-end steakhouse. Lighting can either amp you up and keep you on edge, or it can calm you down, leading people to speak softer, to breathe deeper, and enjoy themselves. A beautifully designed space with bad lighting will always fall flat. Lighting is key. So you could have a beautiful room with amazing wall color and furniture and art, and if there is only overhead lighting, it's a disaster. You cannot create the desired atmosphere within a home without various layers of lighting and lighting set at the right temperatures or colors. So now let's get into the 3 layers of light. First up is the ambient lighting. So examples of this would be overhead fixtures, chandeliers, or recessed cans. This washes the room with light. It's not directed at anything. It's meant to just light up the room. So in the kitchen or task-specific areas, this can be really helpful. Other than that, I hate overhead light. It literally hurts my eyes. In fact, I think it hurts my head. You never want to rely on this alone. It flattens everything out. You lose dimension and texture in a room, and you definitely lose atmosphere. It is anything but cozy and calm. The second type of lighting is task lighting. It's functional and focused. So examples of this would be under cabinet lights, desk lamps, reading sconces, like the kind that are directional and usually installed next to a bed. This type provides directional light to a specific spot without lighting up the entire room. Therefore, it's task specific. So when you think about where you do things, reading, prepping food, applying makeup, etc., that's where you want task lighting. And then the third type of lighting is accent lighting. This is the mood and magic. So examples of this are picture or art lights, LED toe kicks, wall sconces, and table lamps. This is where luxury lives. It adds depth, drama, and dimension. A luxury home glows even when the overhead lights are off. So let's discuss some common lighting mistakes. All can lights and nothing else. So those can lights, otherwise known as those overhead recessed lights that are round, which is why they're called can lights. These are so popular in builder grade homes and spec homes, but they are so far from ideal. This is the Walmart version of your home and everything that we want to avoid. Another frequent lighting mistake is hanging lights too low or too high. You should not bump your head on chandeliers or pendants above a bar or dining room table. Wall sconces are mounted at specific heights, as are reading sconces above or next to headboards. Mounting these lights at the wrong heights creates a risk for accidents as people can come into contact with them, either walking down a hallway or getting up from the table. But it also prevents them from lighting the room as they're meant to. It's important to get these details correct, and they can vary, so I'm not going to go into the details of mounting heights here. Another mistake that's frequently encountered is not using dimmers, which means you have one mood all the time. Now, if you have an older home or haven't had the electrical updated recently, you may not have dimmer switches. Anymore, they're becoming standard operation. Dimmer switches obviously allow you to dim the quantity of light being emitted, and this is useful for various times of day or how the room is being used in the moment. And you know how you can save the settings on your driver's side seat in your car so that if two of you are driving the car back and forth, you can quickly get in your seat, put it back to your preferred position. Well, you can do that with dimmer switches too, creating and saving various lighting scenes. Ignoring the color temperature is another frequent mistake. So lighting color temperature is measured in Kelvin, and it's noted as an uppercase K after the number. It refers to the warmth or coolness of light. Lower Kelvin temperatures, which is 2700 to 3000 Kelvin, produce warm yellowish light, while higher Kelvin temperatures, ranging between 4000 and 6500 Kelvin, produce cool bluish light. The most common range for residential lighting is 2700 to 5000 Kelvin, with 2700 being a warm white and 5000 being the cool white. When you purchase a lot of LED bulbs, you're able to adjust the temperature setting or Kelvin of the specific bulb. So generally speaking, the warmer, the better. Keep that sucker turned all the way down to 2700 Kelvin for a cozy, warm light. Speaking of LED lighting, have you ever wondered what the difference between LED and traditional incandescent and fluorescent lighting is? Well, LED stands for light emitting diode. LEDs use a semiconductor to produce light, making them significantly more energy efficient, by up to 90%, and longer lasting than incandescent bulbs, which produce light by heating a filament. LEDs also emit light in a specific direction, unlike other types of lighting that emit light and heat in all directions. Incandescent bulbs are shaped the way they are because they have to be for the filament to function properly. LEDs do not need that bulb. They function in just about any shape and size, meaning that creativity is unlimited now. A lot of LEDs are created in the same bulbs that we're used to with the incandescent, just because that's what we're used to and because that's what fits in our existing table lamps and other fixtures. But you're starting to see a lot more shapes and sizes used in chandeliers. Another innovation when it comes to lighting is the cordless lamp. These started out as the very small lamps that are suited for restaurant tables or kitchen countertops, but now they've evolved to full-size lamps, which is fabulous because now you can place a table and lamp in the center of your room without having to manipulate cords through and under rugs or worry about having floor outlets. I just used the most beautiful crystal cordless lamp in a project where I really wanted to place a lamp in between two chairs in the middle of the floor. The light bulb, we'll call it, has a battery life of maybe 12 hours, if I remember correctly, and it has a little charger that you just set it in to recharge. This innovation has allowed for so many more options when it comes to space planning and room layouts. All right, so how we deal with lighting and the layering of lighting at AMI is by starting with the architecture. So how much natural light is there, and what are the ceiling heights, and where are the focal points in the room? Each of these factors greatly affect the lighting decisions. High ceilings create the need for way more lighting, as the light doesn't reflect off the ceiling the same way it does with 8 to 10 foot ceilings. So there's a need for more lamps and sconces. And focal points like mantles, wall art, or architectural details can call for accent lighting. We always specify dimmers and three-way switches when possible. Dimmers provide you with so many more lighting options than you would otherwise have. You can take your room from family board game night to hanging out with a glass of wine at home alone in peace, all with the same light fixtures using a dimmer switch. We mix hardwired with decorative lighting. And as I mentioned before, cordless lamps are a favorite of mine. Hardwired means that you use a wall switch to turn them on and off. And decorating lighting refers to fixtures that are turned on and off at the fixture itself, just like a lamp, or of course by plugging them into smart plugs and controlling them using ALEXA. So every room has a lighting strategy. It is not an afterthought as we design rooms. We take into account how the room is used, which can vary throughout the day and the time of year. We factor in the natural light that comes into the room, or if this might be an issue to manage. If the afternoon sun comes into a room harshly, blinding anyone inside, then we use window treatments to address it and therefore need to counter that with interior lighting. And of course, we want to highlight any features that deserve to stand out, whether it's art or architectural features. Light is at the center of creating ambiance in a room and creating emotion. To take my exercise of Walmart versus the high-end steakhouse one step further, think of how you feel in a candlelit room versus a fluorescent office. Fluorescent offices drain me. I cannot think of a more miserable work environment. One of my first jobs in commercial design was with an architecture firm that was located in a basic commercial office building with acoustical tile ceilings and overhead fluorescent lights. I remember it being so difficult to select finishes because colors look totally different under various light. A paint color that looks one way under natural light will look different under fluorescent light. My boss had lamps in her office and would always keep the overhead lights turned off, and I loved working in her office. It was a much more enjoyable atmosphere to spend my time. Have you ever noticed when you go into the hospital, it is, of course, nothing but overhead lighting, and it is harsh. And if you are the patient in the hospital, on your back, staring at the ceiling with these harsh lights shining in your face, it can be miserable. I recently had a relative in the hospital, and I actually went in there carrying a floor lamp. So we kept the overhead lights off. All of the doctors and staffers that would visit the room commented on how much better it was with the lamp light versus the overhead lights. Lighting sets the tone for how you live in your home. Do you want to mellow your kids out a bit? Try turning the lights down. I'm not making any promises, but there are reasons why restaurants and evening events keep a lower lighting level after a certain hour. Lighting isn't always about how much you see. It's how you feel in the space. Task-specific lighting aside, the job of the rest of the lighting is to create the ambiance and emotions of a comfortable, relaxed escape from the world. Lighting might be functional, but it's also deeply emotional. It shapes how we live, how we rest, and how we connect. So the next time you're updating a room, don't stop at the paint color. Look at the light. If you loved today's episode, I'd be so grateful if you'd share it with a friend or leave a quick review. It really helps this little show grow. And don't forget to follow along on Instagram at Ashley Morgan Interiors and Charm and Circumstance for more behind the scenes design tips and podcast updates. Until next time, my beautiful friend. Thanks for joining me on Charm and Circumstance. Be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and follow along on Instagram because charm is personal and circumstance is what you make of it.